guys, it's Sarah. I haven't done a video on here for ages, but I was thinking through some stuff and I thought that it would be a really awesome video for you. So what I wanted to actually talk about is how to know if you have too much stuff. This is something I get in questions on a fairly regular basis actually, is how many of, X items should I have, or can I still call myself a minimalist if I have, however much of a certain thing. And look, if you follow me for any length of time, you probably know by now that I actually don't subscribe to the thinking that you need bare walls or perfectly styled furniture and everything matching and to know exactly how many items you have to be a minimalist. I don't think that way. And I mean, look, I think it's really cool that some people can create numbered lists of how much they have. I love watching those videos on YouTube, and I think it's really cool that some people can do that. But I think for most people, that's a bit extreme, especially when they come across minimalism as a tool to help them cope with overwhelm. Looking at that as the definition is a bit too much. So I don't think there's any rules for minimalism. And I think that honestly, the second that you look to someone else to define for you how much of an item you can have or give you the rules and the guidelines for what minimalism is, it stops being about your journey to find what it is that adds value and joy and purpose to your life. You look for someone else for the rules and you stop actually discovering what it is for you that lights your world up and that makes your world special. So I'm not going to tell you have too much stuff. I'm not going to tell you how many DVDs you can have or how many mugs can sit on your shelf or how many clothes can be in your wardrobe. I'm not going to tell you any of that. But what I'd like to describe for you is the moment that I knew without a shadow of a doubt that we had too much stuff and I wanted to do something about that. So for those that know me, I actually really love Star Wars. When my husband deployed to Afghanistan was actually not long after we got married. We got married in June and he deployed in November. And one of the things that he did was when they came home through Dubai. And he went to Build-A-Bear Workshop and he actually built me my very own Darth Vader teddy. And Darth Vader teddy actually still resides in our house. He generally doesn't have his Darth Vader clothes on though, the girls cuddle him. But so I love Star Wars a little bit, so excuse my Star Wars analogy. But I think of this scene from Star Wars, A New Hope, when Luke, Hans and Leia fling themselves into this chute on the side of the wall to get away. And they end up in the trash compactor. And they've landed in this trash compactor and there's stuff piled up all over the place. And it's overwhelming. But then the walls start coming in. And slowly, the room comes in on them. And honestly, that is what I felt like when I walked into the front door of our house. It was like suddenly the whole weight of the home, the weight of the house and of everything that we owned settled on my shoulders and the walls started coming in. It was overwhelming and it was a lot. And at the time I was a fairly, new-ish mum. I had an 18-month-old, but I felt like I spent my entire day cleaning and putting things away. And then when the room finally looked organised, I turned around and I hadn't got dinner done and the washing hadn't been done and people were hangry. They were hungry and they were angry and I couldn't keep up. There was just too much for me to be constantly putting away and I couldn't look after my family and keep the house clean. And that was the moment that I knew we needed to change something. I knew that for us, we had entirely too much stuff and I needed to change it. So, look, this is what I want to say to you. How to know if you have too much stuff. If you walk in and you feel like the house is collapsing in on top of you, if your home leaves you feeling stressed rather than able to de-stress, if your home leaves you exhausted rather than inspired, or if things are always out because there isn't a home for stuff, if there's things laying around that never, ever, ever go away because they actually don't have a home, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you probably have too much stuff. But look, I think there's a lot of space between having bare basics in your home and being like that you know, that ideal of minimalism that we've defined, you know, with just bare basics, and wanting to hold on to every single item we've ever owned. And I think it's in that space between one extreme and the other, that we learn what we really need and what we want to be happy, content, and inspired in our lives, to be abundant, to have joy and purpose, to, you know, have things in our lives that light us up, but not so much that we feel overwhelmed by stuff and cluttered and just unable to keep up. So look, I don't count how many possessions we have. I don't have rules about how many books we're allowed to have on the shelf, or what sort of aesthetic our home should be styled as, none of that. But I have a goal of what I want my home to be, and I have a vision. And my goal is to create a home that leaves me feeling both calm and inspired. To have a home that fills our needs, but also leaves me feeling happy, content, and it leaves me ready to create magic, that I can see purpose and value, and I can pass that on to other people. So instead of having rules about what minimalism looks like to us, instead I've got a picture, I've got a goal, I've got a vision of what our home should feel like when we walk through the door. So what I want to say to you is how to know if you have too much stuff. I want you to think about what it's like to walk into your front door, to walk into your lounge room, or the kids' room, or your bedroom. And I want you to feel about that, think about that feeling. And I want you to think about what you want that feeling to be instead. And that's your answer. That's your answer on if you have too much stuff. If you're feeling at the moment as you walk in and you feel suffocated, overwhelmed, stressed, frustrated, well then maybe it's time to look for some tips and some tools to deal with that. So I'd actually like to invite you on 10:30 on Wednesday the 29th of July. That feels like it's a long time away when I say it, but I look at the calendar, it's actually not. But I'm going to do a free webinar on Zoom. The link will be available in my bio. I'm going to share some tips to help you reduce overwhelm in your home. And I'd love to have you there. It's not going to be rules. It's not going to be, you know, anything like that. I'm just going to share some tips and some strategies with you to actually help reduce that overwhelm and give you a start to move forward. I'd love to have you. If you can't make it, please register at the link. There'll be a form to put your details in so that I can send you updates. But that will also mean that I can send you out the replay as well if you can't make it. So I'd love to have you there and chat with you more about, you know, how things make you feel and how we can go further with that. So we'll see you then. Bye.